Cause our melanin,
Yeah.
we on a different level, man. Go ahead, bro. Say the same, man.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Quadash.
We want to give a double honors to our apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, they were well, and a salute and a shalom to all the Akim that are out to labor, pushing in truth and all sincerity and in truth. The 12 tribes of Israel, which consist of Judah, the so-called Negroes, Benjamin, the so-called West Indians, Levi, the so-called Haitians, Simeon, the so-called Dominicans, Zebulon, the so-called Guatemalans, Panamanians, Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, the so-called Cubans, Gad, the so-called North American Indians, Reuben, the so-called Senegal Indians, Naphtali, the so-called Argentinians, to the Chileans, Asher, the so-called Colombians, to the Uruguayans, and Issachar, the so-called Mexicans. These are the people whom we call God, the anointed, is coming back for, but only for the elect of the nation of Israel.
Right. That's right. Yeah, you go right in the pocket, but that's the spirit. We going in, man. This is the book of this is 2nd Ezra 14 and verse 4. And it says, "And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt, and brought him up to the mount of Sinai, where I held him by me a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and showed him the secrets of times and the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide." So the secrets, man. What's to say the secrets are revealed unto the servants, what? The prophets.
The prophets. Now, who was he talking about? He was talking about Moses. See? So Moses went up to Mount Sinai for 40 days, right?
Yeah.
And he was told secrets and all that, man. That's why when he came back down, his face was shining, man. His face was illuminated.
Yeah.
See, it says,
Wisdom calls it, yep.
It says, wisdom maketh a man's face to shine. See?
And it says, "And now I say unto thee, that thou lay up in thy heart the signs that I have showed, and the dreams that thou hast seen, and the interpretations which thou hast heard. But thou shalt be taken away from all, and from henceforth thou shalt remain with my son, and with much as be like thee, until the time be ended."
Until the time be ended.
Yep.
What time are we in, man? The time is about to be ended, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Our last captivity, right? And the last of Esau ruler. And he's gonna go back to being a caveman. Right? Ooga booga. Right. Yeah. So, hey, man.
It's fearful, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's fearful. We know you're gonna literally be taken away from knowledge and wisdom. You're just gonna be dummies, man. Your children will be dummy forever. Shit. Hey, this is what you called for it earlier. This is the book of Ecclesiastes 8 and verse 1. And it says, who is as wise, who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed.
See, man? So wisdom maketh a man's face to shine, man. We have this true name, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So with the way these people look at us, we don't know how they look at us, man.
That's right.
Because they don't see just the regular people.
Yep. You got a question, my man? Yeah, you use the scriptures? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so you know the Bible talks about the 12 tribes of Israel. You read Revelations, the 144,000, and the 1/3 are coming out of the tribes of, it says each tribe, 12 tribes of Israel. So you got to ask, that's why even if you see in a situation with Moses, right, Moses was a time of, let my people go. That's a famous saying. Why did the Egyptians go? If God is for everyone and everything, come in and love, right? That was the time where the Israelites could assimilated, taught them of their ways, and incorporated. It says, let us go. It says, let Moses was told to tell Pharaoh, let my people go, because the Israelites at the time were in slavery. They made them labor over bricks, you know what I'm saying? And then look, aren't we in the modern day in Egypt? Because what do we have on the back of the United States dollar bill? A pyramid. They don't have a turtle dove. Well, I thought it's in God we trust. God destroyed Egypt. Yeah. So why would we glorify something that God literally destroyed? And then what's the Washington Monument? That's all, and that goes back to Semiramis and Talmud. That's a phallic symbol. That's a big phallic. But most people that not learn, because go ahead, my brother.
Now, in Egypt, there was a city called Memphis, Egypt.
Yes.
It was known to have the pyramids, right?
Yeah.
Why is that here?
Yep.
Next to the sea, there's a big pyramid in the middle of the city.
Wasn't it like masons or something like that?
Yeah. Just like recently, if you're familiar, the Georgia Guidestones. Have you remember they wrote the commandments on it in multiple languages, and I think it was the guy that said they made it. His name was R.P. Christian, but it was one of those, like, you know, when writers use what's it, like, not an alias, but it's one of those like sign names, like if it's a book writer, but they'll use like not the real name, but that's what he used, R.C. Christian. But a thunderbolt literally struck this thing just last week and broke it down. It's been up for about 70 years. And it's made out of granite. They wanted it to survive the apocalypse. And one of the first commandments on there is maintain humanity under 500 million. There's 7 billion people on the planet Earth. What are they planning on? How are they planning on getting into 5? Come on, man. And these are men. That wasn't a cheap structure. These are men that are able to have the. Somebody's literally saying we're gonna kill a lot of the world. How are they doing? But look now, diseases, cancer. I mean, remember when I was a kid, we always talked. Cancer was like getting hit with lightning twice. You remember it was one of those like, what, cancer? Oh snap! Like now, it's almost like mandatory. Young girls with cervix cancer. I mean, it's literally everywhere.
So what about the list here? That's what kind of caught my attention.
Okay, yeah, these people. So what has happened is these people on this sign. So what has happened? These are what you call the 12 tribes of Israel, because the tribe of Dan is no longer. That's the tribe of Dan was cut off. So these people are their byword names, or these are our byword names, like the so-called Negro. They call us Negroes. Even get that sign with the slave sign for me. So when you have Benjamin, which are the West Indianites, you have Haitian, which are the Levites. Levi was known as the chief tribe, which was the head tribe, right? Why do you think the Levites practice voodoo today? That's one of the most practicing voodoo nations, like practicing. You go down there in them islands, they're still doing that. But they're actually they're attained to it because they're the priests of the nation of Israel. That's why a lot of them earthquakes have smacked Haiti like that. You notice a lot of those judgments have taken place on Haiti. Like Haiti's never been, it might come up and then it'll get smacked with a hurricane, get smacked with an earthquake. Now, if you see
it's full of bones.
Yep. And it's a metaphor, because bones mean death. If something's bones, that means it's dry, it's dead. Keep going.
It says, he caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley. And lo, they were very dry.
They were very dry. That means we lost who we was as a people. We were just taken. The Lord stripped us, because it wasn't, you wouldn't say, oh yeah, the people that brought us into slavery. Yes, of course. But let's go deeper. Who really gave that power? God did. Because he said in Deuteronomy 28, it says, if you do this, I'm going to bless you. If you do this, I'm going to curse you. So God really sent us into slavery. He even took his name away so we can call on him. Remember in Egypt, what did God tell Moses? He said, the cry of my people has entered into my ears. So he even took his name, so we didn't, you ever heard the weird, you know, when you're doing passionate, you'd be like, hey, we have to have a safe word. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what the God pretty much did with his contract. He said, you'll go through hard times, but here's my name. Paul, like that was our breadcrumb back to him. But then he said, nah, not this time, because every time I save you, you guys go back to sinning, you go back to being harlots, go back to practicing witchcraft. We were sacrificing our children. Like we weren't just innocent snowflakes that went on slavery. No, we were assholes, man. Let's just be serious. We was, man. We got delivered. God gave us great talents to be his people, and then we shit on it, man.
So we deserve everything we got.
Exactly.
We're wicked.
but now we're being turned what? We're being turned righteous. That's why God said he's going to make a new heart. That's why we're going to have a new heart, because we're not going to sin no more. Keep going. Now get to the sign. I think it's in 15.
Yeah. It says, yep, here it is. This is Ezekiel 37 and 15.
Check this out.
The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it.
And when that word stick, if you look at the word in I think it's the Hebrew word or the Greek word, it's plank. It's not stick, it's plank. It says, take thee one plank. Keep going.
It says, and write upon it for Judah, before the children of Israel, his companions.
Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
It says, then take another stick.
And take another stick, and they do what?
And write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel, his companions.
Exactly, because then Ephraim is representation of the rulership, because that's where the rulership came out of when the nation split. Ephraim became because Jeroboam and Rehoboam. Because you had Jeroboam and Rehoboam that split. You had Solomon's kingdom stayed, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and then the 10 tribes went with Rehoboam. So he went with Rehoboam. Rehoboam was Ephraimite. So then that became the rulership. So when it speaks about Judah and Ephraim or Joseph, that's representation of the 10 tribes. Now keep going, read it one more time.
It says, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, and write upon it for Judah, for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel.
All the house of Israel, and then guess what the Lord said?
And join them one to another.
Put them together on that same stick, right? Put them together and say what?
They shall become one in thine hand.
So when we take this up and we leave, guess what? This is one board in our hand. We carry it on one board because they're together. This is symbolic. Now, but there was no record of Ezekiel walking around with a stick with this plank on. So that prophecy was to now,
right? Because
now we're coming back to ourselves, because there's men doing this all over the world with the same stick.
It's because in all the other captivities, we knew who we were. Our nationality wasn't stripped from us until we got here. It says, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee.
Yep, just like you did. You said, hey man, what is that sign? That's what really draw you in. That we call this the bait. That's why it says I should make you fishers of men. If you're a good fisher, hey, you know the bait. If you're going for a certain fish, you know the certain bait you need. You know the certain. And if they're not biting on that, you might have to switch up the bait. You know what I'm saying? And that's you evidently know that. Keep going.
So what? I mean, I still, how did you make this was the curiosity. How did you make the transition between each of the 12 tribes and the people groups that you have listed there?
The curses. The curses and the prophecy, because you read in Deuteronomy where Jacob blessed his sons. If you want to get that real quick, that's because when he blessed his sons, he said, okay, Judah, your lines, well, the scepter shall not depart from thee, right? If you see with Judah, where we call the Negroes today, a lot of the so-called Americans that they're here, black Americans or Negroes, they're like the head tribe. Let's look at talent-wise. Let's look at music-wise, inkling, sports-wise. Michael Jordan was a so-called Judite. Michael Jackson was so-called Judite. A lot of them stem from slavery. Their ancestors came here from slavery and stem. It's more of that leadership role in where you call, like, because we don't have kings now. We're not in a kingdom. So a lot of the curses and a lot of the blessings that was put on it, this is how, because our elder Ariah, okay, he was a high priest Ariah, he pretty much, this was seen in like a vision type spiritual giving. Like, and this started from the school in New York by a man named Abba Bivens, which we believe is a great man coming back, because he started this. He said, you know what, he learned under rabbis, he learned under a rabbinic line. You know, he was studying and being a rabbi, and then he started looking at the scriptures and started seeing a similitude between the so-called, oh no, go ahead. He started seeing the similarities between, he didn't know the sign though. Right. He just knew, like, okay, we gotta be the people of God, because he started reading the curses, he started going through the prophecies and seeing that we would be thrown off, and then get that Deuteronomy. I'll finish the sign real quick. Do you already have the Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
Okay, get that. Check this out.
The leader.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, hey, that's what I'm trying to answer. I try to make them quick, but then make sure it's still, you know, you understand it. Keep going.
This is Genesis 49.
Genesis 49, Select.
It says, and Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
In the last days, not the current times. He said in the last days. That showed you how powerful he was, because he knew what would happen to each one of his sons going into the future. Keep going.
It says, gather yourselves together and hear, you sons of Jacob.
Come on.
And hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn.
See?
My might, the beginning of my strength. The excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel.
Keep going.
Because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then the fellas thou hit.
Go to Gad real quick. Gad will be the one that really hit the point. Because the other ones we got to go into detail on those. But check Gad out. This is what he said. What happened to Gad? Keep going.
All right. Yeah. Verse 19.
Check it out.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him.
And troop is the Native Americans. Because Gad is the American Indians today, right? What was the troop? The cavalry. The cavalry. So read it again.
It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him.
Who really got who took out Gad? Who took out the Native Americans? Was the troop, cavalry. The troop. And then you had the what? You had the Buffalo Soldiers. That was a buffalo, and they took Negroes to do it. Because it was hard to get to fight. Like the Buffalo Soldiers were black men that came and fought against the Native Americans. Hardened black men. You got to think, Judah, that strong tribe, had to be used to get another strong tribe. You see that? That's where you get Gad. That's just the one. What's the chances of that? That's why they came over here. Even the 10 tribes in the time of Shalmaneser and King Hoshea, they split and they came over here. Then we can go into all that when they came, because when the split happened between Jeroboam and Rehoboam, the northern tribe went into the Assyrian captivity, and then the southern tribe went into the Babylonian captivity. So we got thrown out of the land. God threw this one way, this one down this way. What happened after the Syrian captivity? They said, damn, we can't go back home because our brothers hate us because we turned our back, we went in idolatry, then we got taken into slavery. We can't go back home. We can't go back to our little land. So they said, man, we're going to go into a place where no man dwelt, which was over here in the Americas. It said it took about 1.5 years for them to get on their journey. What would take 1.5 years if the Middle East was like, it was a small compact area. You could get somewhere in about, what, a week or two? It didn't take 1.5 years. So that was sailing over here, and it says the stream brought us, that North Line strike, the stream that travels around the world. Yeah. Long story short, go ahead.
Solomon's Navy came over here, but it took them a long time to get here and to come back.
1.5 years, I think.
Yep. So that's how we know that Osireth is speaking of America.
Yep.
Osireth.
Yep,
Osireth.
Osireth. It is. They also it's a gold. It was known for gold because they used to even come over here to America. There's gold. The gold show, gold mining. That little documentary show. That dude, I just seen I think he's a $13 million paycheck on his last gold thing. I was just watching the reruns. But come on, gold was here, peacocks were here, apes were here, South America. So this was like it was like a big grocery store for fine things you couldn't get in the Middle East. That's why Solomon was so praised, because he had damn peacocks. Imagine you come in the king, like what the hell is that? And then it feathers go up, and imagine seeing that. You'd be like, oh my goodness. So long story short, they came over here. And the reason we know this is by the spirit and by the curses, because the curses were a breadcrumb that God left us to figure out who we were. That's why we sung on trees, the yoke of iron that was on our neck. Those were little things that God made sure would happen to us, with us to remember ourselves and say, damn, we sinned, we got to come back. Because look at the earth, man. It's bad. Look at the pollution. Look at there's only 40 years or 60 years left of topsoil in the world. Ukraine right now, people want to say, oh, Ukraine, you know why they call it the breadbasket of the world? It's got some of the most high-grade soil in the world. They call it black gold. The soil is almost black. Like, you see this wood chips? That's how their soil looks, about 2 to 3 feet under. Like, you just got to throw seeds. You don't even got to plant them. That's what Hitler tried to export the soil from Ukraine during that time of that war. So most people don't understand it's more than just a financial. That is a strategic and a life-giving place that Russia can't let it go, and we can't let it go. It's like it's fight, man.
One last thing. Verse 27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall devour the spoil. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. The West Indians, all of their song is about the destruction of Babylon.
Yeah.
Babylon is America. So they even know that America will be destroyed.
Yeah.
That's why
There's no
Russia
mention
has.
of America in the end times.
It was because guess what? America burned every one of the books. I mean, think about it. Why you think it's road? That's why even the Lord, he said he spoke in parables. Remember when the disciples asked him, he said, Lord, why do you speak to the people? Speak plain. Why do you speak to us and you tell us, but when you go speak, you speak to them in riddles? Because guess what? He said, it's given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Guess what? We know it now. But guess what? They've been printing these Bibles off and didn't know, hey, your country's in here. And guess what? Look at all the Persians were in the Bible. The Medo-Persian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Egyptian Empire was in the scriptures. You think God missed this? Come on, man. Come on, nukes. Like, we got nukes. Like, we were the first country to drop nukes on anybody. Like, mass death. Like, hey, come on, man. That's why Jeremiah 50, it says, thou art the hammer of the whole earth. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens, long story short, when we're established back as rulerships, we're going to fix the earth. We know now what pollution does. We know now what the dietary, if you don't have good diet. Now we know why we have the law of Wati, because guess what? Look at people's cholesterol. People are dying by the food alone, man. The GMOs, like, that's what is establishing now. We're in the beginning stages of God coming back to the earth by giving us his word back and then us, prophesying. But that's it, man,
But we are in the, now when we were calling ourselves African, whatever, no one had a problem with it.
Exactly.
The moment we repent and come back to who we are, we get a lot of pushback. That means that they knew that we weren't African, Hispanic, and all that. But that's why they didn't have a problem with it. But the moment we come back to this, we get a lot of pushback. That means we are these people.
Yeah.
Because if we weren't, they wouldn't have a problem with it. Then they wouldn't mind us saying anything now.
So what about all of the Jews that are right now?
Because I'm gonna tell you something else. What does it say? The elder uses it, quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. Who benefits? In a crime, if you're a detective and you have to figure out a crime, they say, okay, who benefits? Who benefits from this person's passing? Who benefits from their death? If there's an insurance policy, and a wife takes an insurance policy out on the husband, and all of a sudden the husband comes up knocked and dead, and then the woman pays out, they're going to say, okay, she's a prime suspect. That's how they go. That's quid pro quo. Now let's go into crime of this. Who benefited from us losing our identity? Who benefited from us not knowing who we are?
But we had into the dispersion.
The diaspora, yep.
And that happened. They had an intact culture that didn't get, I'm not saying that.
No, I know what you're saying, yeah. It was intact, right?
It was intact, and they had, I know down in Ethiopia, there was actually...
Yeah, the Ethiopian Jews.
Tests that actually show that they have a similar bloodline and whatnot.
But that goes, where's the baseline? You got to say, to establish that they were the people, that means they would have had to have all the baseline of the blood, because this goes to this. The Ethiopians, those go back to the Samaritans. If you read Matthew's the 5th chapter, it says, enter ye not into the city of the Samaritans. Go rather to the lost tribes of Israel. And it says, I should put a difference between you and the Egyptian. It says a leopard shall change its spots, but it shall not, because there were dark cultures in there already, because we were dark. You know what I'm saying? There was a dark thing, but where the so-called Jews, the Amalekites today, they were converts. That goes in time of Kagan Bullen. When you're in the time of the Khazarian Empire, okay? When the Khazarian Empire, you had you had Islam on one side, and then you had another fighting faction in the Khazarian Empire was in the middle, the Caucasus Mountains. Okay, but just look at Kagan Bullen. They said, shit, we don't want to choose them. We don't want to choose them because we're going to split. They said, we adopted Judaism. They even had a priest come and teach them the ways, teach them the Torah, because because the so-called Jews in the land today, they don't follow the Bible, they follow the Talmud. The Talmud was a Babylonian book. The Talmud, you look it up. Look it up. That's the practicing book they use is the Talmud. They use the scriptures here and there, but when they was established, they came because that was by the Balfour Declaration. God said He's going to bring them into the land. He didn't say a declaration was going to bring them. He said, "I shall bring my people into the land." The Balfour Declaration was established by the Rothschild family because they said we're going to get the America into the war if England would give them that land. Pretty much it was a contract. They said, okay, that's why you had to, even when he came in there was a paper that was written. Man, it's one of those historical. We did our research because it's like this. When you find out who you are, guess what? You're going to dive into it because that's where we were lost. They gave us culture and things that wasn't us. Like this brother said, African. African is the name of a Roman general. Leo Scorpio Africanus. So we're not African because we'd have to come out of his line. So who are we then?
Plus, in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, it says, who is Ham? Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes.
Yep. And then here, you have this Babylonian book.
Yep.
It's called Babylon the Timbuktu, where it said that, go ahead and read that. I'm just going to tell them what it says.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I need to go.
I know, man.
Sorry.
I know we get to unlock. It's like a lot in a short period of time.
Lots of rabbit holes.
Yeah.
This is on Google, the Jewish Encyclopedia of 1925 identified Jewry as Edom. So modern day Jewry is Edom. So those people that's over in the land of Israel now, they are Edomites.
Jury.
Modern jewelry. Yeah, that's what they call it, jewelry.
Yeah.
Jewelry.
Jerusalem, basically.
Yeah. But their Khazars. Look at their conversion. They're like, even in the ancient world, there was people trying to even when you had your slaves, they would have to learn them. They'd have to get circumcised too. They'd have to go into that. But the main thing when you say they're converts, because guess what? The ones that own the slave ships that shipped us over here were Jewish. They were Jewish-owned slave ships. Yeah. Check that out. No, man, look, I always tell people consider us liars. We're not sitting, we're not the church. We don't spoon feed. You got to do your own legwork. What does it say? You must be convinced in thy own mind. It says what? Study to show thyself approved. So it's supposed to be dramatic. So you be like, hold on, and go look it up. Until then, we're crazy guys that is telling you anything. I mean, that's how we want you to look at us, because we didn't spoon feed this. We labor to do. That's why we're able to stand out here. Because guess what? You go to church, you can barely raise your hand. The pastor, he'll yell and then he'll go back to his thing. Ask him questions though. But we've been out here to be able to ask us with the conquest. What did Paul say? He went in, he went in the market and he strived with people daily. You see what I'm saying? That's what this truth is. Because guess what? Iron sharpeneth iron. Because we're able to stand on this. These pastors and these churches, come on, man. 501c3, they can't stand on it. They don't even study. They don't know the Greek, the Hebrew, the Latin. These are the things you have to know to get into these scriptures. To know this truth, you got to labor. It's a labor of what? Love. Yeah. Because guess what? A lot of people won't even put down shrimp and pork for the Most High. They'll say they love God, but they won't even put down that. And it's expressly written. Men died in the history over pork, but now today it's served on a freely, and everybody's it's no big deal. No.
But they call themselves what? Jewish, right?
Yeah, Jewish.
Jewish means imitating a Judite.
Or pertaining to.
Yeah, they're not nothing like the real inhabitants of that land.
Yeah.
That's why when they got there, a war broke out.
There's been war ever since. It's never been peaceful there. It's one of the most violent places on earth, man. If you go there and then check this out, to know the Israelites are known as peaceful. Because another thing, one thing you can pinpoint. Deuteronomy in 28th chapter says that I shall set thee on high. I shall make thee above nations. I shall make you a special jewel on the earth. Now you got to ask yourself, who has been inventors? From the AC unit was invented by a black man. The filament for the light bulb, different inventions, shoelace, like different George Washington Carver. Like look what they call him, the Peanut Man. Humble, like there's a thing in us. Even like look what we do in slavery. Look what we've done, like music, rock and roll, jazz, blues. All these things that are core issues for America, if we weren't here, would just be like, it'd be dusty. Take away the street light. Just take away the light bulb. Like, what would it be? It'd be a dark horrible place. But what we're getting now is that we're taking these talents that God gave us, and we're now being brought back to righteousness, and then we're going to give the earth what we're meant to give it. We're not going to just be like, oh, athletes. That's like the lowest thing we're meant to do, is be athletes. But now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be the priests, and we're going to have the same inventions, but we're going to do, like right now, they could stop hunger, they could stop crisis. They got enough clean energy research equipment that, guess what, they can literally make nobody pay bills and anything else in the world be a utopia. But guess what, they don't. That's why the same guidestone says what? Maintain humanity under 500 million, where God said be what? Be fruitful and multiply.
And that's why it got hit
It got struck by lightning. It was on camera. They said an explosion happened.
Yeah,
there was no fire. There was no fire. They came the next day, and then before the investigation, they knocked it down the same day. Does that seem right to you? They didn't even do no forensic. They didn't. We've been watching CSI a long time, baby.
Yeah, because the point that was said was the Hebrew portion of it.
Yeah, the Hebrew tablet got struck.
Yeah.
It shattered it. It shattered from the top part down to the whole. It crumbled a granite block. And then right before the lightning hit, there was a light sitting next to it to illuminate it so the camera could see it. It got bright, and then the lightning hit it, man. God's doing things, man.
That's an omen.
That's an omen. And now probably you don't even know about CERN, do you? The Hadron Collider?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the Hadron. Guess what? That was the day after they let it off on full power. That was the day.
That was the time frame.
Yeah, right after the day. And then when they did it the first time, before they did it the first time, they sent the message, and the message came back in the.
They weren't sure it was going to actually blow up the world.
Exactly. That's madman. You know what they sent? They sent because they're looking. There's a thing called Operation Looking. We're going deep, but there's a. Yeah, they went into this thing and they got a message back. They said tickle, many tickle.
That's the
weight measured and found life.
That's what they got from CERN. They got the message. They got that from CERN. Come on, man. Come on. That should make people like, he's real. That's what, I mean, that's been the one thing everybody's looked for. They wonder why the earth is so messed up, and God, the tangibility. Now God is going to make himself tangible. We come into some times, man. Like, it's going to be far out. I'm ready for it, because guess what? The world needs hope, man. It's a hopeless place right now, man. People barely even want to get up.
Are you completed Jews then, I guess?
No, it's our bloodline. It's who we are.
So, no, I mean, you know what I mean by completed Jews.
Like,
are you Messianic Jews?
We believe in the Messiah. Yeah, we believe, because guess what? We're living in the last days because they're waiting for one. No, one has to come already and establish different things. He has to go on the cross. He has to die. The Messiah they're waiting for still has to go through anguish. The Messiah that has already came and promised. Because guess what? For us to have this, prove that he was the Messiah. Because guess what? He said, I'm going to send a comforter to you. So if he never went on that cross, guess what? We would have never woke up. We would have been damned people. We would have been in perpetual slaves. There would have been no savior for us. Because guess what? Through the law, we were bound under the curses. The curses would have been an ongoing thing, because where there's law, there's death. Where you break up the law, there's death.
And that's why in Revelation 5, when he went up to the Father, he took the book out of the Father's hand and he broke the 7 seals. So that's why we have what we have, because of the sacrifice and what he did.
This is what you're seeing the fruits of it, because he said that what? I shall be with thee unto the ends of the earth. When he sent out the commission, he said, go out, preach the great commission. He said, I will be with thee unto the ends of the earth. How's he going to be? Why would he be up to the ends of the earth? Because guess what? We were going to be spread out. He was already saying, he said, I see Jerusalem compassed with armies, flee. He already knew it. And he said, guess what? I'm going to make the way. That's why he said, I got to go on this cross. That's why he said, Father, it's done. It is finished. So guess what? He went up and he said, I go and prepare a place for you. He was preparing a place in the time where we would come back and trust on him, man. And be the people, man. It's getting ready to be far out. Watch what happens, because guess what? The same things that glorified the Lord in Egypt is getting ready to be glorified now. Miracles are coming, man. Think about that. People be healed. And these things, I've always read the Bible before I came in this, and I've always wondered, like, where are these at? I was in church my whole life. I used to go Wednesdays, Thursdays. I'm like, where is these at? I used to see corruption. The pastor, he's corrupt. There's all types of adultery. I'm like, this can't be where God's at, man.
Right.
Look at the Catholic Church. They raping little boys like it's going out of fashion, and nobody's paid for those crimes. God ain't dealing with that. Come on, man. So he's got to be somewhere. So we don't want to. Hey, he's dealt with this a long time. And what's your nationality, man? Where your father come from, man?
He would be Spanish, American, Mexican.
Oh, he was a Span. Like, where he come from? Like Spain's? Like,
Yeah, that's the surname. So.
okay.
And then, but most of my family from Mexico.
Oh, okay. That's what's up, man. Hey.
That's why
I
I
wouldn't
looked
know.
down at the bottom and saw Issachar.
Yashashka. His Hebrew name is Yashashka. You know why he's at the bottom? That's one of the most important. You know why we break it down? Because he lifts the load. Yashashka, his sign, it says he is hired. That's his name. He is hired. Who's working? Who works? Come on, man. Out of all these tribes, who's working? He says he's a ass. He crouched down between two burdens. Yeah. He's a donkey. He says it describes him as a donkey that's crouched in between two burdens. You know when you put a saddle on the back of a donkey, and they got that down in Mexico. That's where that's how our teacher. See, come on, see, he got it, bro. I wouldn't have never known until you said something. But yeah, Issachar, and that goes into our because really a lot of our warriors tribes came out of the northern tribe. But yeah, Issachar is one. Hey, that's one of the most important. Man, look, the culture is getting brought back. That's why we live in the